Hello. Today I wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about another book. I love books, and books were a source of so much comfort for me. And there are a select handful that I would say you must read at the time of diagnosis, off treatment, wherever you're at. This book is one that should be read whenever, but it should be read. Um, this book is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. Um, we'll show you my copy, but I've had this book for I don't know, 15, 20 years now. I know it's kind of crazy to think I've had it for that long, but um, it is one of my absolute favorite books. And I had read it when I was much younger, and I've never really finished reading the last half of the book, which really goes into logotherapy, which is basically existential therapy, which is essentially, to dumb that one down even further for people who don't know what existentialism and stuff is. Um, to bring it down to more layman's term, it is basically the questioning of what is the meaning of life and who is God, and just those type of questions about your existence and your purpose. Viktor E. Frankl was a psychiatrist who went into, I believe it was Auschwitz. It's been a while since I read it, but I want to say it was Auschwitz. He was taken to Auschwitz, and he was a psychiatrist at that time. And he basically started psychoanalyzing people who struggled, and those who were surviving. Not that they were surviving super well, but people who were having better chances of surviving in their time in the camps. And he would just psychoanalyze essentially, I guess, their attitude, their mindset, their experiences. And he just flat out tells you, about his very challenging experience being stuck in a concentration camp. And so this book, the way he wrote it, supposedly he sat down and wrote it straight through one evening, just, you know, went through his book, wrote it all out. And he was thinking about publishing this book anonymously after he was out of, after he was liberated, I guess you could say, right? After the time in World War II. And so he writes this book, publishes it, and finally, I guess people, told him, no, just go ahead and publish it with your name. It is such an incredible source of inspiration. It has nothing to do with childhood cancer or the world that we experience, but it speaks to a commonality of suffering. And I felt so seen and so validated when I read this book in a way that was safe for me to explore those emotions, because, I don't know about you, but I did read a book or two around people's childhood cancer experience. It was too close to home for me, and it was really challenging for me to make my way through that type of book. This doesn't talk about cancer. It just talks about human suffering and resilience, and how we make sense of our experience and how we move forward. And essentially, how we choose to move forward is really important. It tells you your quality of life, what that would look like if you choose to move forward with, I hate using the word mindset, but a more optimistic outlook, where, really it comes down to with hope and resilience. So this book, I highly recommend it because it does allow you to feel emotions in a safe way. And what I mean by that is, instead of getting caught up in something that strikes way too close to home and causes you to start having emotional distress over your own experience and your own situation, you can relate to some of the experiences that he felt, the emotions that he felt in his experience. And you are allowed to, it encourages you almost, or it brings you into his suffering so that you too can grieve a piece of you that relates to that. And so this book was so validating is the best word I can use to describe it. Like, I read so many different books and I struggled with so many different questions after our experience that once I read this book, I just felt validated that it's okay to suffer and it's okay to have these questions and to question, um, what to do with it moving forward. So, if you've never read this book, it is a very quick book. Really, his story is about 90 something pages, 93 pages, or at least in my version, it is. It's very short and very easy to read. He just tells it to you like a story. Then the second half of this book, part two, he really goes into how he came up with the idea of logotherapy after experiencing the trauma being in the concentration camp and watching so many of his loved ones die and just the brutality that he saw day in and day out. Um, that part, I will say, if you're not in the world of psychotherapy, that might be a little bit harder to read, but it's still very valuable information, resourceful, and it gives you a lot to think about. I did this as a book club, so I highly recommend if you can read this with other people and just talk to one another about your experience, and what you drew from this book. That in itself can be incredibly healing because sharing your wisdom and your insight that you learn from this, um, you feel also very validated, very seen, very, very much, yeah, just seen. So sharing it with other people within the community that we live in, it definitely is very helpful and very healing. And so get a copy of this book. I will put a link in the comments below. It's definitely worth a read. And if you've read it, I would love to hear your comments and, message me. And I would love to um, share whatever it is that you would love for me to share with the audience. So I really appreciate you guys for tuning in today. And I hope that if you've never read this book, that it will provide a source of comfort for you while you are in treatment, off treatment, grieving, whatever it is, whatever stage you're in, that you find comfort through the shared experience of suffering with somebody else in a way that's safer for you to experience those emotions. So, on that note, I just thank you for tuning in and I hope you guys have a great day.